Okay, this is video number 1 in the Honors Pre-Calculus Summer Assignment tutorial series. We're going to start off with question number 1 from the summer assignment, which is a factoring problem. In order to factor this expression, what we're going to do in this series is use the method of grouping. So, for grouping, what we want to do is we want to multiply A times C. Notice A, in this case, is 1. B is positive 10. C is 25. And the first thing we want to do is we want to multiply A times C. When we do that, in this case, 1 times 25 gives us 25. All right, so A times C is 25. Now, what we want to do is we want to find factors of 25. We want to find two factors of 25 that add up to equal B. That add to equal B. And B in this case is 10. So we want to look for two factors of 25 that multiply, obviously, to be 25 and add to be 10. Now, the factors of 25 are 1 and 25. Well, these two multiply to be 25, but they add to be 26, not 10. The next combination would be 5 times 5. 5 times 5 is 25, and 5 plus 5 is 10. So this is the combination of factors that multiply to equal 25 and add to equal 10. So what we're going to do is we're going to restate the original expression, m squared, but instead of 10m, we're going to use 5m plus 5m. So we're going to have 5m and 5m. And then, of course, we have our 25. Notice how 5m plus 5m is just a direct replacement for 10m. And now we're ready to group. So what we're going to do is we're going to group the first two terms, and we're going to group the last two terms. Notice the sign in the middle stays between the parentheses, and that's a plus sign, so we don't have to do any correction inside this second set of parentheses. Now that we've grouped, from the first group of two, we factor out the greatest common factor. I see m in both terms. So factor out an m, leaving an m here, and leaving a 5. From the second group, same thing. Factor out the greatest common factor. In this case, it would be 5. That leaves an m plus 5. Check your work at this point. Make sure that if you distribute m back into m plus 5, you would get m squared plus 5m. And if you multiply 5 times m and 5 times 5, you would get the second group. Now, notice since this binomial and this binomial are identical, therefore we can regroup and say we have m, so this m, and 5, both of which are multiplying an m plus 5. And we've finished our factoring. The only thing left to do is to check, to make sure. So always check by foiling back together. Let's go ahead and foil. The first terms become m squared. Outer is 5m. Inner, another 5m. And the last, 25. Just adding up our central terms, we get back to our original expression. So it checks out, and this is our answer. Okay, let's try another type. This one is a different type of factoring, where a, our leading coefficient, the coefficient of the x squared term, is not 1. B is negative 65. C is 14. We're going to do the same thing we did before using the grouping method. This is question number 3 from your summer assignment. So again, just like the first problem, we're going to multiply A times C. A times C, that's 9 times 14. We're going to get 90 plus 36, or 126. Now our next task is to find two numbers that multiply to be 126, two factors of 126 that add to be negative 65. Now 126 is a positive number, so the two factors that multiply to be a positive number have to have the same signs. And when I add those numbers, I get a negative number, negative 65. Therefore, our two numbers, our two factors, have to be two negative numbers. So let's look for factors of 126, and that would be, let's say, negative 1 times negative 126. Do these add to be negative 65? No, they do not. Negative 2 times negative 63 would multiply to be 126. Do they add to be negative 65? Yes, they do. Therefore, these are our two factors of 126 that add to be negative 65, the B value. Okay, so again, we're going to rewrite our original expression, but instead of the center term, we're going to replace the negative 65 with negative 2x and negative 63x. These are the two terms that result from finding negative 2 and negative 63. All right, now we group. We'll group the first two terms together and the last two terms together, keeping the sign, the negative sign, in between. Notice when we do that, we have to correct this sign. At this time, it looks like I have a negative 14 here. I have a negative 63x, which is what we wanted, but I also have now created a negative 14. So I'm going to rewrite this. 9x squared minus 2x, that's one group, minus 63x, where's my 3? 63x minus 14. And now the grouping is correct. As before, we're going to factor from the first group the greatest common factor of 9x squared and negative 2x, and that would just simply be x, leaving us a 9x and a negative 2. Over here in the second group, factor out the greatest common factor of 63x and negative 14. This would be negative, or this would be 7. 7 times 9x gives us 63x, and 7 times negative 2 gives us negative 14. Notice again, negative 9x minus 2, 9x minus 2 are the same. Therefore, we have x and we have negative 7, both of which are multiplying 9x minus 2. This is the factored form of our original expression. Foil it together to make sure. So our check is going to be by foiling. Always check your answer. So foiling, we'd have 9x squared. Those are the first terms. Outer terms give us negative 2x. Inner terms give us negative 63x. And the last two terms give us positive 14. Combine the center two terms to make sure we match the original equation. So our answer right there. Okay? At this time, what you need to do is you're going to do number 2 through 14. Remember, check your answers. Take note of the things to do to get stuck. Good luck.